1,000 plus residents here in Port Lavaca have headed north or east out of harm's way, maybe up towards Victoria, but that's not even safe, at least from the wind and the ravaging rainfall of Hurricane Harvey. Already here we've had 3.13 inches of rain today, and we had 7/10 overnight. So far, since late last night, we've had 4 inches of rain, and we've got a long way to go. 4 inches so far. That would be a fair amount in a fast-moving hurricane, but this hurricane is slowing down. Remember, rainfall is inversely proportional to the speed. If you double the speed, you cut the rainfall in half theoretically. Let's bring in Brian Norcross. Brian, here comes another squall right now, getting pelted by this rain, and you also notice how the water continues to rise here in the front of the Holiday Inn. But real quickly, there's their salvation. The hotel was built way up, concrete, steel, and hardy plank. We're not worried at all about the water rise here in Port Lavaca. We are concerned about what's going to take place around the rest of the area that doesn't have this kind of protection in the hours to come.
Yeah, Mike, I think you're going to need that elevation, because when those winds come around, so that they come around from the south, that is going to push that water up there into Lavaca Bay and out of Matagorda Bay down to the south. All right, take a look at the satellite, and we can clearly see what's happening here. And look at a little, you can see the eye is wobbling a little bit, but it's on a track that is going to take it in that direction. And when the center of the eye comes ashore, that is what's called landfall, and that's going to happen in the next couple hours or so. But the strongest part of the storm on the right side here, you can see there's Port O'Connor. Port Lavaca, where Mike is right there. Victoria, right here. If this continues, all those places are going to get very hard hit from this hurricane. By the way, another Hurricane Hunter plane is going out there because the forward motion slowed down enough that they think they can get through it and do their measurements before it actually goes ashore, going past New Orleans now, heading on toward the hurricane. So here's the close-up shot of the radar, and we see that the eye wall is right there over San Jose Island. So this island here is San Jose Island. This island here is Matagorda Island to the north, and that's Mustang Island to the south. So it's the eye wall is now ashore on San Jose Island, and it's going to go across Aransas Sound into the Rockport area. It's going to get nailed by this hurricane here, and it is imminent as it moves on in. Let's look at the 3D view, where what the computer does, it looks at the most intense parts of the returns from the radar and then makes them vertical like that in the high radar. Move this back, and you see that there's a band here just outside the eye wall and another one, and there's a broken one about Port Lavaca right now. So kind of a neat thing that we can use this radar to really see where these enhanced bands are. Now compare that here to Corpus Christi, and you see that the yellows here are well outside of Corpus Christi, and so where Jim Cantori is, these yellows here are going to come around. They're not done with this by any means, but the hurricane is edging slowly farther away from Corpus Christi as it heads a little bit of an angle off to the northeast. So as we saw, so let's reorient you here now. Matagorda Island to the north, San Jose Island to the south. The eye wall of the hurricane is right here. So here's the onshore push of water here, and that is going to push water here into Matagorda Bay, into Aransas Bay, and when the wind direction comes from the south, that's going to push it up toward Port Lavaca, and that's why I say Mike Seidel is going to need that high elevation there, and that's why the National Hurricane Center, see the reds up in here, reds up in here, reds all around here. That's 9 to 12 feet above ground for the water with waves on top of that. Port Lavaca is a high place, so that's why you see the blues kind of under Port Lavaca there. So maybe 1 to 3 feet above ground as it seems to be the reasonable worst case for Port Lavaca. All right, let's we've talked so much with justification about this imminent landfall, but we cannot forget that this storm is forecast to move very slowly inland, so that it's somewhere in the vicinity, plus or minus, of Victoria tomorrow afternoon. So the idea is this is going to slow down significantly, and this rain is going to continue. That's tomorrow. Now look at this. Still, the model indication is that it's going to stay in this general area of the coastal bend of Texas, maybe up toward Houston. Don't look at the exact line. That's not what's important. What's important is it's going to continue to rain in an area around the hurricane and to the east, and that rain is going to continue, the best that we know, all the way into the middle of next week, and perhaps even more than that. Still forecasting incredible rain amounts, disastrously flooding rain, we think, in Texas. All right, back to Jim Cantori in Corpus Christi. Jim, take it away, top of the hour.
All right, Brian, we got some hurricane force gusts here, and we continue to see the winds now still up 50, 65 miles per hour here. This may be what we're going to get with here in Corpus Christi. Guys, please take the mix minus out of my ear. Please do that if you're back at the Weather Channel. Thank you. All right, stick around, guys. We got much more coming up. Mike Seidel is going to join us as well as we begin a new hour here on the Weather Channel. We're not going to give up with Harvey. We got crews all over Texas and even Louisiana pre-positioned to cover this thing for you as we continue to watch it roll in tonight. Really looking at the radar here, it looks like Rockport is going to absolutely take it on the chin. The last gust we've had at Rockport is 83 miles per hour. 83 miles per hour. They are just about to get in to the eye wall in Rockport as this thing continues to just drift to the north. So moving slow now, as Brian said. It looks like it's going to just make its way inland, maybe as far west as Victoria, which isn't very far west at all. It's about maybe 50 miles or so, if you will, from the coastline, from the exact coastline. But then it takes a turn and starts to head back or drift back, as is in the case in through here. Meanwhile, all these areas start getting rain later tonight. San Antonio, they're already getting it someplace. San Antonio, Austin, up in toward Houston area, the Houston metropolitan area getting as well. So we have to watch this. Multiple floods are possible for the city of Houston. We just don't know how this is all going to play out. It's unforecastable by the computer models to tell us exactly where these bands are going to set up. Again, guys, my producer Steve Peterak did go down. And look at the Enterprise. It's right there. The Enterprise roof collapse, as was reported. It's really kind of an awning, it looks like, that has collapsed, a metal awning that has collapsed, as opposed to an entire infrastructure concrete roof. So I wanted to report that to you. That's what we've got. We do have some street signs that have come down as well. We can actually show you some video of that maybe a little bit later on. But you know what? Think about the wind it takes to push over a street sign, a heavy street sign. It takes a lot of energy. So we've had hurricane force gusts here in Corpus Christi, but this will not be Celia like we had back in 1970 with 125. All right, let's go up the road a piece by about an hour as the crow flies, or as you get on the roads. This is Mike Seidel in Port Lavaca. Mike, I guess the biggest thing that you've noticed is a little increase in the wind, but more of an increase in the water, right?
Yeah, the water is really now piling up here. This is Lavaca Bay out here, and get a sense of these waves now just coming over, and the seawall's just about been covered up. You can't see it anymore. There was plenty of seawall earlier. This is the front patio, and the wind picking up the water off the top of the waves. This whole area now underwater. It'll be interesting to see how high the water does rise. It's already come up at least 2 to 3 feet, I would estimate. That's not official, but estimation. And the rainfall I mentioned earlier, I just added up the rainfall just today alone. Since this morning, we've had about 3.13, if my math is right, 3.13 inches since this morning. We had another 0.7 of an inch last night, so we're almost to 4 inches of rain, and we have got a long way to go. I mean, we've got all night tonight and tomorrow, and then we're going to have rain into the middle part of next week. So you can just imagine the rainfall totals when we've already almost had 4 inches, and we haven't even taken the brunt in those bands around the eye wall, the outer eye wall, where you get the really heavy rainfall rates of 2 to 3 inches an hour. The winds here sustained about 35 miles an hour. We've got some protection. I want to show you, I've gotten a lot of text and talk on social media. Be safe. Are you going to be okay? We are. This balcony, we're about 15 to 16 feet above the water level. This hotel was built 6 years ago, and when you build a hotel here in Port Lavaca, near the Gulf of Mexico, right here off the Lavaca Bay, you know you've got to build it sturdy, and they did all they could. This is concrete block here, steel, hard to get a cell phone call out of your room, and then the first level is actually there's no rooms there, and that's hardy plank, and they've got some walls that can blow away, but that's for safety purposes. But there's nothing hanging out here. We don't have any signs hanging that would cause us to be concerned about things blowing around. Now, if you look across Lavaca Bay, there's refineries over there at Port Comfort. I don't know if you can see the lights in the distance, but a sure sign that the power is still on here in this part of Calhoun County, which was under a mandatory evacuation as of late morning. Rainfall now not particularly heavy, but we keep an eye on the radar. And again, the worst is yet to come as far as the heaviest rain and the gusty winds here in Port Lavaca. Jim, Port O'Connor out there on the water on the barrier island, along with Port Aransas, Aransas Pass, Rockport, all those areas are going to get clobbered, even up towards Palacios. And it'll be interesting to see how high the winds gust in Victoria, because they've already gusted to nearly 50 miles an hour, well ahead of what could be an eye going over Victoria early Saturday morning. Reynolds Wolf will be live on the Weather Channel starting a little after midnight in Victoria. So we'll have the pictures from there. Jim, let me send it back to you in Corpus as we go to darkness here. We get dark here in the area around Port Lavaca. Let's hope the power stays on for everyone tonight, but it seems unlikely that it will.
Michael, we appreciate that report. Again, guys, we're kind of teetering here. We've been very steady, very consistent with 50, 60 mile per hour winds, gust occasionally to hurricane force here in Corpus Christi. And this may be some of our worst weather, okay? Especially now as we see the storm heading north. Eye wall looks like it's going to go right in toward Rockport. Let's get the latest on some of the trends that we're seeing with this as this hurricane is going to be making its way ashore. I want to bring in a hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, to talk about this. Dr. Rick, last night, if you were a betting man, did you think that tonight we'd be talking about a landfalling Cat 4?
Well, we were talking about the possibility because yesterday morning when the forecast from the Hurricane Center changed upward after it rapidly intensified as a tropical storm, and the forecast for tonight was for Cat 3, we were talking last night about the possibility of something a little stronger in Cat 4. So a couple of days ago, certainly weren't expecting this, but yesterday this looked like a distinct possibility.
Right. So what are you seeing now on the radar? I mean, we're starting to get into some of this outer eye wall, aren't we, down around near Rockport and Port Aransas?
Yes, we are. You know, again, the landfall of a hurricane is not the landfall of the outer eye wall. If we look at where the center of the hurricane is, when that crosses the coast, that's when you've got landfall of the hurricane itself. But we do have the northwestern eye wall on land already on San Jose Island, and that is headed toward Rockport. Now, again, the maximum storm surge and the strong gust winds might very well be on the right side of the hurricane to the north of wherever it is the dead center comes ashore. So points north from Rockport northward are likely to experience the greatest storm surge. In Corpus Christi, however, on the southern side of the circulation, the storm surge is not going to be as bad as it would be if the center was crossing to your south, Jim.
Dr. Knabb, I was looking at the radar from Radar Scope before I walked out here to do this particular block, and I saw the winds over Rockport at about 2,000 feet, estimated by the radar about 123 miles per hour. How much of that do you think could get down to the surface?
Oh, quite a bit. again, when you look at radar winds, it depends on what altitude the radar beam is striking that band and that area of wind, and then we have to make some adjustments down to the surface. But when you've got maximum winds stronger than that, certainly a lot of that's going to mix down to the surface. And again, I think the strong gust winds will be on the right side, and so we probably haven't seen yet the strongest winds we're going to see, the Doppler radar winds from the land-based WSR-88Ds.
All right, let's get into the other side of this. I mean, this is a multi-hazard threat, as we've been talking about for days now. The rainfall has been leading the way all the way, even though that's not, what we're seeing at least imminent right now in terms of flooding, huge widespread flooding everywhere. But that is going to change, Dr. Knapp. When do you expect that to start?
Well, the rainfall is already starting. The storm surge yet hasn't reached its peak. So in both coastal flooding and inland flooding, we haven't reached by any means anywhere near what the peak is going to be. When it comes to the storm surge flooding, it's going to be maximized as the eye wall comes on shore, especially on the right side. And as the storm starts to move farther inland, we will start to see the rainfall rack up farther and farther inland. So points inland, it hasn't started raining yet. It will soon. But if you're in areas where it already has started raining on the coast, this is just the beginning of a multi-day event, Jim. It's really hard to imagine and hard to accept that the rain that is starting now in places like where you're standing, in places between the hurricane and Houston and places inland, that it could rain for days. And as this storm perhaps loops back around and comes back toward the coast, back up toward Houston as the current forecast shows, that means the current landfall area, where we're going to experience landfall here in the next hour or two, probably, it's going to be a place where it's going to be raining for several days into Tuesday or Wednesday.
It really is absolutely unthinkable in through here. Thank you, Dr. Knapp, for your insight. We will check back in with you again. As again, just to kind of recap here, Dr. Knapp talking about the western eye wall coming on shore near the Rockport area here in Corpus Christi. We are not going to see the eye wall. We've seen, if you will, kind of the second and third tier bands out away from that come through, and that has allowed for winds to gust to 75 miles per hour. But we will not see the eye wall here as everything continues to slowly work its way north. And speaking of north, on the northeast side of our hurricane, we have a lot of east wind bringing in big waves and a lot of water. And an area that is going to see some of those waves is certainly Galveston. Thank goodness for that seawall. Mike Bettis is in Galveston tonight to report. Mike, give us an idea. Again, Corpus to Galveston is on a 4.5-hour drive as the crow flies. How different is it there than what we're having here?
I mean, listen, winds are gusty here, no question about that, but we're certainly not going to deal with in Galveston what you're going to deal with closer to the eye. We're about, as the crow flies, about 150 miles away from the eye of Harvey, okay? Now, I'll give you that. I mean, the palms are blowing right now. There could be opportunities for power outages, but as far as what the seawall can do, it can hold back a lot of water. And since we're such a distance from the center of circulation of Harvey, the good news is the water's just splashing up at the bottom of the seawall, okay? That water would have to come up a solid 12 feet to breach the seawall and then come over the street here. And just voluntary evacuations here in Galveston for Harvey. And actually, there's been a decent amount of traffic this evening. You can see folks are out this evening. They're driving around. A lot of the restaurants and businesses are open. The hotels are open. The city services did close down today. But the one real risk that I think we run here in Galveston is tornadoes. We have a tornado watch that goes through the night, that goes until 2 o'clock tonight, and we've actually had 3 tornado warnings in Galveston today. Brazoria and Galveston County have really, I felt like, been the target for tornadoes. I know that Dr. Knapp is still listening in here. Dr. Knapp, it feels like there's been a real concentration of tornadoes in this small area north of the center. Do you think it stays that way tonight?
Very well could. It's very common for tornadoes to occur in the right front quadrant of a landfalling hurricane, and that's exactly where Houston and Galveston are located. So let's paint the bigger picture first. Here's the center of the hurricane just offshore down on the middle Texas coast. Here's Houston and here's Galveston. Now, if we take a look, here's down near Rockport where the eye is. That's not where the tornadoes are occurring. Let's go up to the Galveston area. Here are those bands coming on shore. They're far, far away from the center of the hurricane, but these bands continue to come on shore, and this is where you can get those quick spin ups. We've got tornado warnings between Galveston and Freeport, and there's more on the way. So it is not a very safe night to be out on the roads because it might be fooling you when it doesn't rain in between the bands, and then you get this nasty band come in, briefly very heavy rain, and a spin up of a tornado. So we mean business with this tornado watch, and these tornado warnings will probably keep coming.
Hey, Dr. Knapp, I wanted to ask you, in respect to where Mike is, do you think it's possible that he has to wait for a potential, if some of the guidance is right, second landfall if it gains strength to get some of the worst weather up there?
Yeah, we have to pay attention to that very carefully because how much we get up in Houston into early next week, in terms of wind and rain, will have something to do with how much time Harvey spends on land versus how much time it spends on water. We can't take this exact forecast track on this white line to the bank. I mean, if it doesn't go this far inland and it comes back farther offshore, then maybe we could end up with something stronger than the 40 to 45 miles an hour on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But again, I don't want to focus too much on the wind and the strength because regardless, you could have the rainfall totals racking up, whether it's a weak tropical storm, a strong tropical storm, or something else. You could still get the feet of rainfall in Houston. So I hope folks in Houston and Galveston don't start to think that if it isn't as strong as they thought it might be, that the rainfall in inland flood hazard is any less. That's still a very life-threatening situation for days to come.
That's exactly what I'm worried about. Some of these areas that are saying, hey, it isn't so bad. We've got a hurricane coming ashore. They're saying it's going to make landfall tonight, but we're not doing too bad. You know why, guys? It's just like Dr. Knapp said. It's going to sit here and spin and turn and make its way back to the north. And all we got to do is think back to 2001. Tropical Storm Allison, sitting, spinning, and dumping very, very heavy rain. All those models are still forecasting unthinkable rain. Nothing has changed.
This Labor Day at Enterprise Car Sales, experience great customer service and get more for your trip.
that. We have a wonderful, newly updated website, and that address is www.gisd.org. We will also post and communicate via all of the social media options that we have. So we will be posting to our Facebook page, our Twitter account, our Instagram account. We also have access to our local cable, Channel 17, so we will be posting updates on that platform, as well as the main district number, which is area code 409-766-5100. And these updates will be posted daily on or before 2 p.m. each day. So that's how we will communicate with our staff and with our parents and with our students. Also, staff communication will be managed at the campus level by our campus principals. So as we are continuing to monitor all of the updates, like the rest of the city, we will be communicating with our parents. And of course, to hear Mayor Yarbrough today give this latest update, we have been in contact with the mayor, of course, and listening to all of the updates and the unknowns that could happen. We feel very secure in our decision that we made because, of course, we are dealing with the most youngest population, and it's always safety first with kids. We've listened to stories recently of some of our neighbors up the road that did not at one point take such aggressive action as we have done in Galveston ISD, and we would never, ever want to have a building full of children and not be able to get those children back home to their families. So that's our GISD update. Thank you. Does anybody have a question? Okay, thank you very much.
I'm Joe Huff. I'm Director of Public Affairs for Galveston College. And Galveston College's emergency management team met several times during the last few days, and yesterday at 2 o'clock, the president and that team decided that Galveston College would be closed today, tomorrow. Both of those were late registration days for our 2017 fall semester. And we also decided, after a conference call this morning at 9 a.m., that we would be closed on Monday, which was scheduled to be the first day of classes for Galveston College. So we have communicated that to 4,600 people this morning by our ConnectEd phone system. We put it on our website. We've done social media. So we're already getting responses that students who had enrolled are glad they don't have to go to school on Monday. We will have a conference call of that same emergency management team on Sunday evening and determine what we will do after Monday. Well, we were actually on a roll to, after having completed our 50th anniversary.
Yeah, what they were discussing at one particular time was they were going to basically follow the storm and maybe come behind it. If it was going to go in the Corpus Christi area or move further east, then the ships would come around this way, and as it was going east, they'll come behind it and bring the folks in that way.
You being the maritime side of things, How bumpy might that get out?
Well, I'm not a big cruiser, and this is exactly why. I was in a 19-foot boat one time and got caught in a cold front, and I told the good Lord that if He ever got me out of that, I won't go back.
Should there be a medical emergency, is there any way to get to someone on one of these?
Is there any way to get one on? Yeah.
Get to somebody there to get them on.
Oh, get somebody there to get them off. Yeah, they have the ability to do that. And one of the things that they talked about this morning was if there was any light to bring one of these cruise ships in, they're talking about maybe flying them out by helicopter to the cruise ship to get them on that way so that the ship can be brought in.
Can you mention again how many ships are out there?
There'll be 4 ships coming in by Saturday and Sunday. So they're on their way in, and they're just having a delay until they get the okay to come in. And there'll be about 20,000 folks coming in.
Come back in like on Wednesday, around Wednesday, you said?
Yeah. And what happened at noon today is that the captain of the port set the Zulu procedure into effect, and that means that no ship can come into the port.
Was it noon today, you said?
They started at noon today, yes.
Is that kind of that's a rarely used procedure, I would take it?
Well, it takes place when gale force winds are in effect, and that'll be in a few hours probably.
Looking at the lights lined up this morning, are there more anchored out there right now than there would normally be waiting to come into the channel?
I didn't come down to Seawall this morning, but probably not cruise ships. Those are probably ships, tankers going into Texas City and to Port of Houston.
So how big is the backlog out there, do you think?
I don't really know. Right now, we're worried about getting our cruise ships back. We've got thousands of cars here, and if we get 25 inches of rain, we're kind of worried about that, about flooding on Harborside Drive.
I talked to a few people today who said that they came to town to get onto their cruise to leave with Carnival, and they said that according to Carnival, they were still supposed to be leaving tomorrow mid-afternoon, depending on what comes down from the port. Have you all finally made the decision?
Yes, we talked to the cruise ship companies about an hour ago, and we told them what the situation was, and we're just going to kind of wait and see what happens. First bright spot we have, or little light we have, we'll try to get the Galveston, Texas City pilots on one of them and to get them in that way.
Has this happened before, as far as cruise ships being stranded, whether it's weather-related or not?
Oh, I'm sure it has happened before, yeah, especially during night.
But not while you've been a part of it, you can speak to.
No, this is the first time that I've been over there.
Does anyone have any questions for UTMB or Beach Patrol while they're here?
Would Peter like to say anything to the surfers that are out there right now?
Sure. Yes, that's what I was getting at.
They're going to do it anyway, but they should hear from you just the same.
Thank you for that. We have our lifeguards out right now, and we're going to work them until it's not safe for them to be out there anymore. At that point, we'll move to mobile patrols. We do have our standard deal for storms that we always put out there. If you're an inexperienced surfer, don't come down to surf the storm. Only experienced people should be out there. At this point, there may be a point where we pull everybody out, but we're not there at this time. We also want to warn everybody not to go in the water, obviously, but also to not walk out on those rock groins. Because once the waves start breaking over the top of them, it becomes very dangerous for us when we have to go bring them back in or rescue them. So we're going to, part of what the guards will be doing is keeping people from walking out on those groins at this point. And if you do want to go look at the big waves, we just ask that you do it from the top of the seawall.
Have there been any rescues so far?
Nothing so far, yeah. Thank you, guys.
Just one last question for the mayor, please, if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand it's a lot of Spanish community that doesn't speak English. Are you guys are prepared for that?
Yes, we have staff available who are bilingual in Tango Hombre. Necesito más dinero. Yes, we do have. We do. You're hitting my limits. Let me piggyback what Mayor Coroglia was saying, back to Deborah's question. The cruise ships have been aware, just like we have, that there are weather concerns in this area. So they're not right in the middle of where this turbulent stuff is. They're doing the best they can to stay out of that for their customers. And the port does a great job of that is a very significant part of our port's business, so they have great relationships. Communication has been good, and as Roger said, as soon as we can work with the Texas Lamarck pilots to get those ships in here and get those customers back safely, we will. But it's one of those things that happens when you live on the Gulf Coast. I guess to wrap it up, is there any more questions before I wrap it up? We need to get this guy a little better hat. You want to trade there? You know, like I tell them, wherever you go, the eyes of Texas are upon you. You do know that. I wish we had that rivalry back. The bottom line is, these are some of the consequences and things you deal with when you're living on the Gulf Coast. And as I said in the opening statement, the city and our people, I don't think, are panicking. I haven't seen panic when I've been out. It's preparation and moving through our normal protocols. We will have additional press conferences when we have information and warrants. We don't want to take your time for the same song and dance. So we'll, with Jerry's help, we'll notify anybody as circumstances and assumptions have changed. We will give you that notice, and we'll have press conferences, and we're available throughout the event to answer your questions and help assist you in your efforts to get the news out to your viewers and listeners. So thank you all very much for being here. Yes, sir.
Someone from UTMB can comment on what their plans are. Will the ER be open and all that, so all throughout all this?
Yeah.
Yes. Hello. My name is Kirk Koopman with UTMB. Yes, the plan at this point is that the hospitals and the emergency rooms would remain open. We actually went into emergency status officially this morning, but we'd been meeting a couple of days prior to that. Our team had and making plans and there are changes to all of our enterprises, you might say, right now. I mean, clinical operations today will officially end. The outpatient clinical operations will end at 3. But like I say, the hospitals will stay open. You know, just like some of the others here, we have students that were all coming back this week. And so our classes were canceled today, and they're also canceled for Monday. But of course, with the uncertainties of this storm that people have already noted, we anticipate there could be some more changes to that. So, you know, one of the things we stress at UTMB also is we are not the same campus we were when Ike hit. There's been over $1 billion of improvements done to our campus to make sure that we would fare better than we did when we had the last threat like this. So anyway, we feel like we're in good shape today, and we're continually going to be meeting, though. We will make updates usually after a 4 o'clock meeting that we have every day. We have 2 a day, but usually those updates are posted also to our Facebook, social media, Twitter, those things also every day. So that's what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, so that was the update from Galveston earlier today. There was also an update from the governor in Austin, in case you guys missed it. I'm going to play that for you in just a moment. But first, it appears that a reporter out in the field there in Galveston is doing a live shot.
Well, Frank, that's a tricky question. So local authorities were telling people this is a different storm. You should not take this lightly. But a number of people we have talked to said they were not going anywhere. We saw a woman walking her dog. A number of people were out on the seawall taking photos, playing in the waves. They highly suggest you do not do that. Police were going up and down the seawall, making folks move their cars, people who had decided to park, take photos, walking up and down the beach. There are a number of people coming in, flooding into the hotels, especially one we're at. They're bringing in people, tourists, others.
All right, everyone, we're going to cut into this reporter in Galveston to take you to the reporter instead in Corpus Christi.
Around and dumping all of that rain, but this is a pretty intense storm right now. There I go. I mean, I was going to try and show you something where I lean forward and see how far I can lean, while the wind's kind of holding me up, but I just fall backwards, so that doesn't work. But yeah, no, this is it's starting to hurt. The little rain pellets are starting to just sting the face, so I can tell it's getting a lot tougher now than it was even in my last hit, which was maybe 20 minutes ago. So yeah, we're getting, I would say this has got to be wind gusts 90, 100 miles an hour and sustained. It's got to be 60, 70 miles an hour sustained. So this has got to be the thick of it right now. As I said, that storm has moved onto land, kind of near Port Aransas and up in there, Port Lavaca. That area as well is going to be getting creamed right now. But nobody can be there because it's under mandatory evacuation. And frankly, there's a very good chance that's going to be all underwater. And that's just the quickest way to die is to go into a flood zone like that with no way out. The bridges, everything could be underwater by tomorrow. Okay. To be honest with you, I beg for stuff like this, and I don't know why. I just think it's just something fun about it. I mean, I actually didn't ask to go to this one, but I ended up here anyway. But I've begged to go to hurricanes before. I've always wanted to kind of get myself into the middle of something really crazy like this. I just heard a really loud bang of metal. I'm hoping a street sign doesn't come and lop my head off. But it's just, I don't know. It's the excitement of it, I guess. It's just something that makes it interesting to me. But you got to be safe. I don't want people to think I'm crazy, but you got to be safe. You got to do it in the right way. And we scout out the area. We're not stupid. I mean, we know what we're doing. So, but yeah, it's exciting. But all right, thanks, guys. Okay, all right, thank you.
So that was a look at a reporter out in the field live in Corpus Christi, braving the wind and rain just to give us that live shot. Again, Corpus Christi, Texas. That is where the eye of the storm is headed. Again, Hurricane Harvey, now a Category 4 hurricane, approaching the Texas coastline. It's 35 miles east of Corpus Christi. And wind gusts of 130 miles per hour. Again, this is an update on Hurricane Harvey. Just wanted to let you know as well some breaking news over the course of the last few hours. If you're into politics or you're a resident here in Arizona, Sheriff Joe Arpaio has been officially pardoned by President Trump. Trump doing a presidential pardon. And that is some big breaking news, and I just wanted to update you with that as well. All right, everyone. Looks like we have another reporter shot coming in from Texas. Let's go to it now.
All right.
Dana, in parts of the Texas coast, there have been gusts reported up to 118 miles per hour, and it's only going to get worse over the next few hours. This building behind me is beginning to lose part of its roof. You can hear the shingles fall off and crash in this deserted street. We've also seen some stoplights down, still blinking red and green, but they're lying flat now. Some real concern about the people who did not obey the evacuations in much of the low-lying area along the Texas coast. Some of those evacuation orders mandatory, others voluntary. I just spoke to a man a while ago who said he has relatives in Rockport about 30 miles away here. He said that town is underwater. So when are we going to see the worst of this? We're seeing dramatic wind now, and we're going to see dramatic destruction from that wind. A Category 4 storm means we're going to see all large trees snapped or torn up. We're going to see road damage, and we're going to see the roofs taken off of houses. But it could get even worse over the next day or two after that. That's when 30 inches of rain is going to continue to fall if this storm does just sit in place as expected. And a 12-foot storm surge could really cause the worst of it. It's going to be a duller, a slower, and a dirtier story, but perhaps even more damaging than what we're seeing right now. Dana, back to you. Well, you know, Juan, a lot of the danger of this area is the fact that you have so many places, low-lying terrain, where there's only one way in or out. So a lot of these places are flooded right now, and we've heard from Corpus Christi police that at this point, they're not going out on rescues. The wind's simply too high, more than 60 miles an hour sustained. So you have areas where it's unreachable. Now nighttime is coming. They're likely to lose power anywhere from 3 to 7 days. So you have, for people who've stayed in certain areas who might not have seen this storm coming or who might not have realized the power of the storm because it increased its power so dramatically and so quickly, you have people in real life-threatening situations. You can probably hear that crash. That's a metal roof sort of coming down the street slowly. It came off a building. We're starting to hear more and more of those cracks. So we're 30 miles away from the worst of it, so people in Rockport are going to have a rough night. Thank you. Thank you. Yep.
All right, everyone, so it looks like we have lost the live feed from that Corpus Christi camera. It looks like it is frozen, so we're going to take you and phone now to our satellite and radar. Again, we are watching Hurricane Harvey, a Category 4 hurricane. Again, this is a Category 4 hurricane. The eye of the storm, the diameter of the eye of the storm is 17 miles. It is currently located 35 miles east of Corpus Christi. Again, we are on hurricane watch here on News Now, and we will continue to provide you updates for the next few minutes. All right, everyone, it looks like we do have that feed once again coming in from Corpus Christi, so let's continue to watch the live rain feed from Corpus Christi, Texas.
I got you. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fact or info, anything new? What?
You saw the gusts of 116 miles per hour?
116?
Yes.
Yeah.
Quarter inches. FEMA just granted Governor Abbott's request for a presidential disaster declaration.
Hey, this is Harrigan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can hear you. Yes, sir. I don't like to stand next to this thing. possible. Seconds.
All right, everyone. We do have a breaking news update. President Trump has signed a disaster proclamation for Texas. Again, President Trump signing a disaster proclamation for Texas. We are going to wrap up our weather coverage here on News Now right after we watch this reporter's live shot out of Corpus Christi.
I'm here with Chris Pontius and Heather Lacey. We're under a parking garage to try and get a safe spot. That's because the streets are pretty much wind tunnels. There have been gusts of wind along the coast of Texas reported at more than 115 miles an hour, and the worst is still yet to come in the next few hours. Already this is a Category 4 storm. That means there's going to be widespread destruction. Large trees are going to be uprooted or snapped, and there's going to be physical damage to buildings, especially roofs. Here where I'm standing, part of the roof of this building has already come off, and you can hear loud sounds behind me of metal roofs coming off, some street lights going down as well, so it's a real physical destruction. It is a ghost town. All the buildings are boarded up. There is no one out here, and that includes first responders. The wind's so heavy right now, first responders, according to Corpus Christi Police, are shutting down for the next several hours. There are widespread areas that have been under voluntary evacuation, others mandatory evacuation. For the past couple of days, we've seen people here doing everything they can to prepare. Some leaving, some deciding to stay. Families out at Home Depot buying plywood, people in line for bread, water, flashlights, camping gear, really trying to get through this any way they can. The real danger is going to be over the next 4 to 5 days. We could see 30 inches of rain in parts of this flat, low-lying area. That's about a year's worth of rain in just a couple of days. It could mean a 12-foot storm surge. And while the wind speed and the destruction could get a lot of the headlines, the real drama could be in the dirty flood in the days ahead. Sean, back to you. At about 90 miles an hour, it's enough to slightly jar you off your feet, but, 30 miles away from me, they could be having, and they are having, a terrible night. In small towns like Rockport, we won't really be able to see the results till tomorrow morning. A lot of these places, there's only one road in or out. That road is flooded, and they could lose power, and it's nighttime, so some really difficult hours ahead for a lot of people here along the Texas coast. Sean? I think a lot of people did evacuate, but this storm really has caught a lot of people by surprise. Just a few days ago it was a nothing, and then it increased in strength quickly and so dramatically, going from Category 1, 2, 3 to 4, that it caught people by surprise. It's also been a dozen years since a major hurricane has had landfall in the U.S., so there was some complacency as well. We've heard the governor over the past couple of days really warning and encouraging people to get out. And the words, the terms they're using are no joke about it. Life-threatening, catastrophic. Not just from this dramatic wind that you're seeing, but from the storm surge to follow. So they have tried to warn people. But, you know, this is not an exact science. They've been wrong in the past, and they may have underestimated this one. But certainly a tough job for the forecasters and a tough job along the coast. This could affect 4 million people. We could see tens of thousands of people with no electric power for 3 to 7 days, starting tomorrow morning. I'm worried what the morning after is going to look like. This isn't the worst of it. I mean, I'm getting knocked down, but 30 miles to my north, there's buildings underwater and there's buildings knocked down, and there's still next 4 or 5 hours, it's going to get even worse, Sean. One of the dangers of this, especially in this area, is that there's often one way in and one way out. So we've actually backed up twice already to seek safer ground. That's because some of the roads can flood if you're not keeping a close eye on your location. I feel pretty comfortable with this position right now. I think that the team and the vehicle are in a parking garage blocked off. We just jump out on the road to try and give you a sense of what it feels like. You know, this is what 90 miles an hour looks like and feels like. It can knock you down and it can knock pieces of the building down. And 30 miles to my north in Rockport, it is leveling entire buildings. That's what a Category 4 storm does. You're seeing just a fraction of it where I'm standing now, Sean. Thank you. Sir. Thanks a lot.
All right, everyone, that wraps up our Corpus Christi and Hurricane Harvey coverage here on News Now. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and we hope you all stay safe out there in Texas.